conversation to Donna, because you've worked with a lot of governments.
Yeah, and I'd say that supposedly something they might people that might be interested.
Okay. That was interesting.
With my own work, we take a global picture of things, stand back a little bit. I like the trend of saying we just blaming ourselves, because that's part of the colonization process that we need to move out of. Okay, so that's 50% of global wealth, right? Is in the red country, that's North America. And that's even the Eastern Seaboard. So most of that country is not rich, which we know Okay, so that's that. And then the blue, that is Europe, Germany, all the colonizer states. Even the ones like Luxembourg or Liechtenstein that didn't have an actual colony, they work together to benefit, and that is why they're blue. The yellow, that is East Asia. That's China, Japan, and South Korea. There's a difference here. The yellow bend is Shanghai, the sort of coastal states that are like the New York and London of China. Those two little things. The yellow one sticking out there, that's South Korea, which is attached to the peninsula. South Korea and Singapore, you might know or not, are the two only countries since the World War that have gone from poor, agrarian, African-like to industrialized rich.
Wow.
2 countries have done that in the world. And they didn't do it through capitalism. They did it, let me say South Korea first, because Japan is slightly different.
Yeah.
They did it because in the context of America's Cold War against the Soviet Union, they pumped lots of money in there.
Okay.
Capitalist democracy on the label, but it was a dictatorship in about the 90s. It is this highly capitalistic, highly savage place, to the extent that women have stopped having children. It is that, this is why the feminism part needs to come in, because all it is about women wanting to be fully human. And right now, they're not. Under that capitalist system, women are not exercising their full rights anywhere in the world. And since COVID, they say we're going backwards. It will be another 350 years till we can make some progress for women to be on the same level as men. Which is why that's what feminism is doing, trying to move that pace further ahead despite all the other bacchanal going on.
Yes.
Japan is, again, I'm not sure, in case you don't know, during the Second World War, they not only were on the part of the Axis powers, like Hitler and them, but they were a colonizing force in their own area. So they colonized parts of China, enslaved people, set up rape factories for women, they call them comfort women. All of those places down there, to the left and the right of China, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, everybody. They were Philippines. Japan was doing its thing. That's how it became industrialized, that's how it became rich, that's how it became yellow. The only one that didn't become on that list from being colonizing, enslaving, etc., is China. Right? South Korea is part of the US thing, and Japan is still occupied since they dropped it out. So that's the context that we're kind of talking about. Why doesn't Africa, you see, it's all gray. All of these are the colonized countries. So kind of when we start talking about, colonization isn't so bad, or maybe it's our fault, everyone that is gray has gone through the experience of colonization. After the independence or freedom or whatever, they're still poor. They still have been eaten. So that's the context that we're talking about just globally. The next one I want to look at is that red, green, and blue, the pretty one. This one. Yes. So 5 countries in Africa represent 50% of the entire GDP. Okay? 50% of the GDP is in 5 countries. And these 5 countries are going backwards in growth. Some of this has to do with imperialism and the long story I don't want to get into, but one of the reasons why it's 2014 in Nigeria, for example, far and away the biggest economy on the continent, nearly 600 billion. They removed the corrupt, quote unquote, President Jonathan, because we cannot allow an African country to grow at 6% per annum, which is what South Africa needs. It has never had 6%, maybe 3%, which means you're not moving forward. So the people are growing, so you get 3%, 2%, 1%, now it's like -0.02, and people are saying, oh wow, this GNU. It's terrible. This is the context that we're asking why we don't have these businesses. And that is the system under which capitalism, that we're trying to have this thing. Multi-generational businesses or whatever success or just human development and not people not being hungry. The context is this. So that's Nigeria. You see where South Africa was when it was neck and neck kind of with Nigeria. It was like 381. Cyril came in and, the anti-corruption man, who is backed by the West. All of those countries. Long story that we need a whole evening to discuss. Because of the international financial system that we operate in, Egypt, a friend of the West. South Africa, under Post Zuma, friend of the West. Look at what's happening to the economy during this time. Ethiopia holding on. Nigeria, it lost 50% of it's like 40% of its 2014 GDP. Think of the suffering.
If I may, you were actually right by the migration economy. South Africa has grown, let's say going bigger, but yet its GDP has gotten smaller yet. Let's see, 381 to 377 to 373.
So it's hovering around 370. But the people are growing. So when you say GDP per capita, it doesn't tell you. But even that, GDP per capita just means if there's $10 in an economy and you have 10 people, everybody gets $1. No. Some people get 9.5. Some people get 50 cents. That's not how it actually works. So that's a rough. It doesn't tell you where.
Someone get people.
Right. So the economy is growing. The country is growing. The people are growing. Not the economy. It's going backwards. And this year, I'm seeing something like this is a few months old. So this is saying that the anticipated for South Africa was 373. Today, I saw some data. It's 2 something.
What?
Right? So again, the scale of human suffering, hunger, same thing. Nigeria, all of these countries, like I said, 5 countries, and these are the ones that are doing well. Okay, so that's the context. So I don't want to dwell on that too long, but that's just the context in which we're asking the question, why are we not able to sustain the businesses? And I want to just go, the first slide is from one of my own countrymen, a feminist woman called Audre Lorde, and she made this very important statement about using the master's tools. And at some point we have to say, like other successful countries in this world, again, that we only know if we take a step back from our own small area and see what are the wider trends happening in the world. The master's tools aren't going to allow us, capitalism is not going to allow us to thrive. The African American story, the global story, Latin America, Africa, Asia. West Asia, which they call the Middle East, which there's bombing, normal colonialism. In DRC, this has never stopped, right? That's Vietnam. 30, 40 years. When they started, they fought a war, got rid of the imperialists, took off like a rocket, fastest growth, even faster than China. They are now, there's a whole success story about people moving from poverty, having like 90% of people own their homes. Of course, they have their land. If you do not have the land, you are not free. free education up to university, all these wonderful things. Healthcare that you're struggling to get with the so-called GNU that is good for everyone, not allowing the healthcare plan to go through. Those are the reasons. And it is not just Steenhuisen or DA. It is the country is subscribed to the master's tools that we are not going to flourish in. So we have to think a little bit about the politics. And if we want to create those businesses, what can we do together? Because it's not an individual thing. What can we do as South Africans? What can we do as Pan-Africans? Which is the most frightening thing for the imperialists. If we ever come together,
100%.
They start crying.
We come together.
Right? So that's it.
That's a great thing. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. Thank you for the slides. Qhutywa said something as well that I wrote down. Main character syndrome is our issue. That's very we're not trying to work together, but we need to break that down, break down the egos, etc. I want to make sure that we get everybody's points of views and perspectives. Kanyisa, I know that there was something that you wanted to say. I knew you wouldn't stop.
Nope, I have never my beat.
Would you like to jump in on the conversation?
Yeah, sure. I thought maybe I should correct the GNU statement.
It's okay.
No. We're having this side.
I understand you.
And I just said maybe it was about time someone hold the government accountable. Where it's going, I think it's taking its own legs and run it off, but let's see where it goes. I think I've tried to summarize today's discussion into 4 key points in which I've picked up on. And I guess the question initially was, why do we find that Black-owned businesses are suffering in the environmental? Being in Africa, you aren't seeing as many entities grow to the full amount. Well, I think you named Berkshire at first and a few others, right? And I found, if I could actually speak to these 4 key items that I picked up on, the first one was instant gratification, right? I found that initially what you see with families who started these businesses, the idea was, what we said was provisions to feed the family, to educate the kids, to clothe the kids, and to keep the roof on top of our heads. But fundamentally that caused an issue because there was no outlook on growth. What was tomorrow? What did tomorrow have, or what was in store for tomorrow, right? And I think that made a lot of our family businesses, if we call them, vulnerable to changing crises, right? We saw a lot of businesses collapse due to COVID. We saw a lot of businesses being impacted by what's happening around us today, increasing interest rate, the change of inflation. And I think that brings about the question of, why do we never consider the potential of innovation and change? I think he has a very beautiful idea with the, sorry, you call it Spaza Eats, right? And the Spaza shop fundamentally was put in place to service just the needs of the family, to feed the family, as I say, but now you have Spaza Eat, which gives it potential to grow legs, right? And you have an ecosystem that is created from that, because now you have the ability to engage in the value chain.
100%. You can also bring the tag brands, which is what I'm doing. You work backwards.
100%. And now you start scaling up, right? If ever there's a change, we see big companies hedge it, and some speculate on changes in commodity prices where they buy bulk, store it somewhere, wherever there's an issue, they still have stock, right? And I think this is potentially
this is
rise to that, right?
Yes.
The other item was, you spoke about education, and I think there I incorporated various other items such as being informed or having access. I mean, and you're right, in which Black-owned businesses are not able to obtain loans at the same rate as our counterparts. Sure, that is true. But then the question is, how informed are we, or how do we have the means to present a backable concept? Do we have the means or the opportunities to, let me actually say this, are we actually informed that outside of the traditional banks in which you are working with, there are DFIs who have the mandate to finance socio-economic growth outside of traditional business ideas, right? And they will finance, that was a heavy sigh.
No, but we're living in a context of austerity. The government is supposed to be doing those things. That's what they do in China and Vietnam. They're not doing it. How?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a huge
with
break.
everything, there's layers, right? There's fundamentally layers, but there remains opportunities. I see now that different organizations that initially started off as one thing are starting to bring it to micro lending. I think it's PEP as well, right?
Yeah.
And if you're someone that has the ability, or let's say has the information to know that I can go to PEP and get them, look, something micro. I don't know what's 50,000 maximum or 100,000 maximum. It still changes something for you to be able to have 100,000 Rand cash and go buy stock, put it out there, sell, and you grow from there, right? And I think that's where we lack as a people, where we don't have the information and also we don't have the access, right? There's a big conversation around this table today was about perception and how we see each other as Black people, as Africans from different ethnic groups in South Africa, as Africans from different countries in Africa in general, right? And that fundamentally is a big problem. I think Africans are more critical of each other than any
because we understand each other.
100%. We worry about this and they are racist, he is racist. You see an African man who is of a certain class walking to a room with an African man or below standing, and you will truly understand that we don't like each other regardless of how the rest of the world sees us, right?
We were taught.
And I mean, fundamentally, there's a foundation to that, and a lot of people you could attribute it to slavery, you could attribute it to apartheid, you could attribute it to many things. But fundamentally, today we are here where we don't like each other. I mean, you mentioned the whole idea of the concept of xenophobia, right? And you asked the question of how can two countries trade freely if we don't even let a human arrive in the country without there being a contentious issue. So how do you then surpass that barrier to find yourself opening up the idea of a free-flowing trade or changing the perception of the next man next to you, and then let's do business together, even though I perceive you, or even though you do come from a lower class than I, but I have faith in the idea that we have together. And then the last item I spoke to was a supportive system. I did a study, I can't remember what the study was called, but it looked at the motor industry in Germany and why it succeeded. And it spoke about how fundamentally Germany is producing engineers at a higher quality or higher standard or a higher number, but then also around just the motor industry, the supportive industries that feed into it, right? It goes into
public spending,
right? And I think as Africans, do we have that? If you have a spaza shop, your friend who's farming chickens in wherever,
directly.
Are you collaborating?
But the ecosystem doesn't allow.
Exactly,
That's why
and the GNU is not having it.
But fundamentally, I think we didn't touch on factors, or we touched on points like bartering, right? You have a chicken farm. To a point, the GNU, you require the government to intervene with maybe providing financial services or providing some human capital or whatever capital you need. But if we circumvent that, you have chickens, I have goats, right? We can work outside the need or outside the services that are provided by these industries, and we can engage. And
Scotland does that actually, intertrade.
Exactly. Yeah. And in itself, you create an ecosystem that supports itself. And I think we spoke about, I don't know which people you spoke about. Was it the Arabic people?
Arabics and the Portuguese.
Exactly, right. That have different businesses within communities that find itself attributing to the growth of that community.
100%.
So why can we not do that as well?
We have it.
Exactly. So that's what we're starting here, right? Yeah. Like, be the change. And I want us to change our conversations and really take today's conversation as a mandate. Don't just like walk out of here and be the same person that you walked in, but be intentional. Be intentional on not looking down on a fellow African guy because he looks like he's a lower class than you. What is a lower class? You know? Let's stop doing that. Person. That we call someone out when they say, oh, why is that guy sitting here with us? Like, he's not even dressed up well. You need to call your friend out and say, we don't talk about each other like that. That's how we start doing those changes.
But I speak. I speak.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on what you said. Sorry, I'm sorry, jumping at you. What you just said is what I've been jotting down, because I've lived in the US. I understand the community models. and the community models in the US, like why you now have some black billionaires and stuff like that, is that community model. Talking about formation of a cooperative. You know, you see the Indians, for example, their money rotates within the Indian
100%.
community because before, I think they say about 10 times or so, before it goes out of the Indian community. And the black businesses in America are starting to formulate that imbibe that model. Now, just for a second, I tried to study, because I use my mother. She's my role model in business. She was fierce as a athlete. She was successful. I think none of us in the family have actually, done as much as she has. And I tried to study what she did. Whatever she did was she engaged herself. Assemblies of God Church. I was born in Assemblies of God Church. We are over 20 million people in Nigeria, and that's a country.
Yeah.
She vied for the position and got the women presidency. She was the secretary. She became the women president of Assemblies of God Women in Nigeria. Now, what happened in Assemblies of God is that those were her direct clients. They came to her, and whatever you were, she will supply to you. She established distribution channels within the church system. Now, we are here worried about you guys are in the banking system. I believe you guys are also one of the problems, because you guys know the system,
but you don't build it.
But you don't get this shareware culture. Okay, in the banking system, how many billionaires, how many people have you actually led into the model of the bank that can help them sustain their businesses and lift it up? That is the shareware culture that we don't have. That's why this generation of wealth is not being built. We don't have that shareware culture, and that is what we must live with here. I agree with you, the convener, that we must have a shareware culture. We must begin each one teach one. That is what shareware culture is, and it starts within the family. If I'm your sibling, instead of competing, you say, "Come,
yes,
prepare your books like this.
100%.
This is how you must. This is what you must do. This is what you must do, so that you are bankable."
Yes.
Right? And I start a business, like I'm thinking of how to survive on a daily basis. And we have this great thing, like the spaza thing that he's doing within the community. How do you get the community to support him and build him up that we don't even need you, the bank?
100%. We create our own bank.
We create our own bank, the cooperative model.
That was the thing.
How do we begin now to formulate these models that can help us with this each one teach one system? Because if I don't know how the bank operates and I'm just a trader out on the street, bruh, I'm just gonna trade. And the next thing I see a BMW pass by and I like it, I go buy it because I have the money to buy it, and that's my capital gone, right? So we need to lead each other by the hand, and that is the African way, and that is what they have taken from us. We stand now to compete against each other instead of helping to build each other. And as friends, as relatives, as this community that we are building here, we must hold each other's hands and teach each other what the next does not know. There are things I know that you don't know, and there are things you know that I don't know, and there are ways you know that I don't know. And those ways, he's been able to build a successful business. I've been able to build a successful business. When I came with my oil in this country, I was shut out, like by the miners or whatever, and I was going through the communities as well. I found the roadside mechanics. I was delivering to them directly. I was going to Benoni, Nutcliff, Soweto, drive it up and down, delivering to them. I came into my own country with my oil. They shut me out.
Yes.
The big
That's what they do. That's what they do.
What did I do? I started doing my own oil, and in doing that, you lose money.
Yes.
You lose energy.
Yes.
You lose time.
Hey.
You have to consistently build.
Yes.
build
And it's can't scale. It's operating on minimum investment.
You understand? So who is going to come and throw the money that you need to?
You don't even look like you are ready. You don't look ready, but you're on the ground.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
You know. So
when
guys,
we do on the ground, we don't look ready.
Exactly. So we are all we need. Just to make this final point.
Yeah.
You know, I see billionaires here. I see millionaires here, and I see billions and millions in the making.
Amen.
But you know, we all need to help each other get into that flow, that
100%.
capitalist system that is now taking over Africa.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was powerful. I would like Ndudim to have a chance to speak, and then we'll allow the lovely lady to speak as well. And then we'll have Lesego speaking, and let's just round up and do our final comments. All right.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have a lot of financial teams here, so I want to focus more on things that is closer to what I do, and that's like humanitarian work, because I feel as well like that some of those things that also hold us back is the lack of support. I spoke about it for all of us, but especially for women. I speak from an area where I started off my career with doing campaigns for women in Sierra Leone and Liberia after the Civil War. So I literally sat in camps and saw women coming in with 4 or 5 children with them, small children. And all these children were a result from them being raped in camps by rebels out in the jungle and so on. And of course, like, you're coming from Ghana and I was living in Nigeria as well, but also from Denmark. So that was a huge shock to the system. And that's when I decided, okay, I want to work with humanitarian projects. Going forward, like now, I've been involved with an orphanage we have here in South Africa. We started off in Hillbo, and we're now in Ndudim because Hillbo became too volatile the area. And this is for young girls who's been rescued from abuse and trafficking. And this is like the 10th year I've been there. But you see a lot of those young girls, when they come to a point where they now start to go to school, etc. And I realized that, you can do all you want to try to do with these girls in the shelter. But when they come out to the real world, they're still facing a lot of different levels of GBV. Emotional GBV as well, like where they've been. And it's shocking what a lot of young women goes through. I mean, I know a lot of my female friends who have had great ideas. Some of them could have come up with something that you came up with, but they just gave up because they were like, you know what, I go to meetings, the guy asked me to come to here, meet me at this hotel and so on, And for example, in South Africa alone, you have 25 to 40% of women have experienced sexual or physical GBV, and around 50% have experienced and or experiencing emotional GBV as well, which prevents them from being as productive as they could be in a society. And it's difficult. How can you wake up in the morning, you've just been beaten by your partner, and try to go to work, be on time, and try to be functional?
Innovate.
Exactly. In Sierra Leone, which is a country that started off, and right now they have a massive crisis as well on GBV. 60% of women in the country have experienced, 60%. So high that the president have now come in and put so President Biden, exactly. So that tells you how incredible harsh it is, and they are really working very hard in Sierra Leone. But even countries that just around us, you never expect. I mean, we all look at Botswana as one of the most stable and well-run countries. They have huge problems with GBV, and their GBV is, if almost every case is something that's a woman being killed. In Botswana, it's trend for when these guys goes into dealing with their wives or partners, they would, if somebody breaks off, for example, they would now kill the child and the wife and then kill themselves afterwards.
Like the Americans, really.
So that happens all the time. This last weekend, there was a woman who had been shouting and crying on social media about how can she get help. She's going to end up dead, and nobody came to her rescue. And 2 days later, she was killed. Another woman, on the same weekend, another woman was killed. The guy killed the baby as well, killed the baby first, so the wife could see it, and then killed her, and then killed himself afterwards. And this is a small country, Tshiswaka. And so we will not get to that place. We talk about the financial inclusion unless we also have women part of it. And of course, like it's very well known that women have to jump over hurdles compared to things that us men just walk through, And then you're now dealing with that as well. And one of the things that we have been working on for the last 4 years is to, because you can go out. I mean, we have been doing all this. I mean, we work with UJ that's very, very much involved, and BITS and so on. You go out to all these different universities, speak about GBV and so on, but you do all your marches. And every time you do a march, when there's some gruesome killing and then people come out doing a march, 70% or 80% are women in the march to start with. You know what I mean? So you almost failed already when you're doing the march because the people that you need to speak to are not there. When you go into universities, I mean, we did one university, and I don't want to mention which one it was. After a whole big conference, whole campaign, whole day, we had celebrities, we had the Minister of Justice, we had the Minister of Education, everybody was there. And there was a group in this hall, 2,000 students, and there was a group of guys sitting together, like 10, 15. And this was in the end, and they were now doing Christians, and then there was like, and so the guy stood up and said, so what if you, and this is students, at some of the best universities, not only in South Africa, but in Africa, And then the guy stood up and said, but what if you now have taken a girl out for drinks and she want to go home? And we're like, what's the question? No, if I pay for her drinks and she want to go home, so what are you really asking? She's like, no, I took her out. I bought her drinks and now she want to go home. So yes, she should go home. What is this? Like, no, you don't understand. I paid for the drinks and she want to go home. Like those drinks, that he had the wine for. And if she didn't want to, then of course, what are you supposed to do? Of course, he would maybe slap her or whatever because he had wasted his money, So if that is happening in the university, you can imagine what happens in townships and so on, So one of the things that we've been working on for the last 4 years is to create a board game for young kids, which it's a board game that would talk about, it's almost like you can imagine a Monopoly, but you're talking about the GBV, and you're sitting in groups, so you're sitting like 4 or 5, exactly, you know what I mean? Because you need to be able to change this mindset from a very young age, and that will also be able to help create more both men and women, boy, child,
I like what you said. I also think I don't think we played Monopoly growing up, most of us.
But it's about that interaction as well with kids. Sometimes when we go to some of these schools, even like they go to, we've been to some schools in the south, etc., where it's like going to a war zone. I mean, it's crazy. Some of these kids are like 12 years old. They're like, there's gangsterism, there are drugs in the schools. They have problems with people like taking pictures, sending pictures naked of each other. They're 12 years old. You know what I mean? And then they use that to extort money out of it from each other. At 12 years old. So we need to also be able to change mindset from an early age. We're able to get them to be functional, to be able to sit in a space where all these amazing
Exactly. That was really brilliant. That was a very powerful perspective.
I think Chief Charles brought up again, but we also need the spiritual area. We need to become a different kind of human being, because to be existing and to be successful in a capitalistic environment, it's dehumanizing, and we dehumanize each other. And on top of that, the economic environment is oppressive, which creates these things. Because you did not see this, say, in the Soviet Union, you didn't see it in China. When the Soviet Union collapsed, violence went like this, prostitution of women like this, all of those things. So that the economic environment really shapes the kind of person that you're going to be, shapes the kind of problems you're going to have.
If you're a good person.
Yes, because it's scary.
Yeah,
that
was a great
topic for another conversation.
Yeah, it's a really great perspective to bring into the conversation. That outside of women being bullied out of positions is also, are they even mentally stable enough to stand up and be innovative and creative?
And
all of this abuse and violence that we're facing. On top of that, it was saying, women, where are you? Come and lead, come and do business, come and do this and that. That is a very, important thing that we actually do need to keep in mind and make sure that the world is safe for women. I'm gonna hand over to
Thank you. So I'm one person, I like to play the devil's advocate. So we are all here in very brilliant minds. We're talking about what we need to be doing when we walk out of here. But I want us to also start thinking about us in this room, what are we going to do together, right? Because in my years of attending events, networking events, think tanks, being in conversations, we are here speaking about what we need to be doing. We need to go out there and fight this and fix that. But amongst us here, we have people that are running NPOs, businesses and organizations, but we are not talking amongst each other to say, okay, Kifilo, you have an academy. Where can I fit in, like what you were saying? Where can you fit in my academy to help me with where I'm struggling and where I need to be because maybe you have the skill? We don't do that amongst us. We're gonna leave here and I'm not even gonna get your contact detail. Or I'm gonna get your contact detail and the conversation is gonna end. But we are asking of each other to go out there and change what is happening in the world. But we are not starting amongst us. Right? I'll make an example, Mr. Banks. There was a time where I sent you a WhatsApp message. No. I'm making an example. Really? It's very close to. It's very close. Because I wanted to get you onto my e-learning platform because we teach entrepreneurship to say, I want one course of entrepreneurship to be run by you. Right? Because we have your Coursera's and them that are being taught by people that we don't know. So my e-learning platform is trying to have stories, to have entrepreneurship being taught by people like you on the platform.
I don't manage my communication, that's the problem. I'll give you my
yes. So what I'm trying to say is, how are we going to work with this thing?
What did I say when you text me?
I don't want to say it in the public. You get what I'm saying? But it's some of the things that really, it's things that really break my heart. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? To say, we are here, we are very brilliant minds, degrees, we are educated, we sound so good with everything that we're saying, but if you're giving me a task to say, go and change, I'll go out there and do that. But why are we not starting here? And then when we go out, we can show to others that, because I met Lesego, out of this conversation, this is what me and Lesego have been able to do.
Absolutely.
We've already been able to do something.
Do you get what I'm saying?
And I hope that
we need a few more conversations to come up with that.
Yeah.
And it's just I think just to finish off the point as well, that as entrepreneurship, and it could feed back to this capitalism system, that I'm running a business, I'm concerned about making it myself. Don't put me and say I must come and work with you. I'm trying to make money. Every day it's all about me. I've got my own things to worry about, and now I'm roping you in, and you also have your own problems. And that is why the network starts breaking. Because we're not there for each other. You are just there for, it's my business, I've got to see it through, I don't have time, do you get what I'm saying? How do we break that?
How we break that is by, like I said before, that each person being intentionally holding yourself accountable. You've recognized an issue. We can't control every person around the table, but you can control yourself, and you can be intentional and make sure that you're a woman of good character, that you do follow up with Lesego, and then you do push Lesego, and then you make sure that you become an accountability partner for her, that you're checking up on her. Girl, I haven't seen you posting about Round Girl Boss Up in a while. When was the last event? When was this and that? What do you need? What do you need? How do you help?
Yes.
This is how you start with yourself. I tell you that when you start being that person, you suddenly realize that everyone around you is always wanting to assist you. Everybody. Now I get calls, oh, you're doing this thing? Okay, what do you need? Okay, I can't be there physically, but here's some money, please help, towards the event. Or this is happening, we're gonna do this for you, we're gonna do that for you. Taking things off of your hands because you've been that person. So it starts with you. Change is going to begin with you. You can't control everyone. There are going to be bad apples. There are going to be people who are just leeches and who would take your generosity and misuse it and mistreat it and abuse it. But there are more good people in the world that I believe than bad ones. So yes, be intentional. You be intentional. And every person in this room, we need to kill pride in ourselves, that you do follow up, that when someone does ignore you, you're like, okay, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to run after them and run after them. I mean, of course, it gets to a point where it's like, it's not working.
Yeah.
But that, we don't have the ego of not following up. And, I love that you were able to bring, that topic to the table, because it shows that you do have the humility that it takes to be great and build great things. Because if you held that in your heart, then, that collaboration, you just build that wall up, and then there's no kind of collaboration, and everything just stops and begins with you and stops with you. So it's amazing, and it's great. And now that we all know that you have this platform, I also want to teach us classroom strategy. You know what I mean? Like, let's be intentional.
And some people aren't. It's not always that somebody is bad if they can't help you.
Yes.
Some people can't teach.
Yeah.
So that's also.
Yeah. But there's a lot of collaboration happening here. And also what this is going to be is a network that's going to be cross-border. And now you guys know that if you need something, you need someone in Namibia, if you need someone in Botswana, Ghana, Nigeria to do ABC, that you tap into the Afro-Collective Think Tank, that you're now a part of this network of brilliant minds as has been displayed tonight. And that even if they're not your person, they're going to connect you with someone in their region who can be some of help to you. So if you do have anything that you need, reach out to me, and let's get you working and moving across the continent as much as we can. Ndahafa is my sister. I mentioned the Royal African Youth Leadership Forum in the bio that played. She's also a member of the Royal Court and received that award as well. And here we are today collaborating. I opened her company here in South Africa, and we're going to continue doing amazing work together. Nonto is the lady who has an office besides mine, and we've been basically in each other's lives and in each other's business beautifully since we met. Lesego is running things that inspire me and that I relate with, and that's why she's sitting here today. Mr. Talifhani Banks and I, of course, going to still do amazing things in DRC, and we're going to continue to connect now. Miss Donna St. Hill has met Talifhani, and she thinks that it's something amazing can happen. Nons also thinks that there's something amazing that can happen, and there are going to be so many collaborations, not just from this chapter, but from all the chapters that are coming. And we're going to build a really formidable network of intentional Africans on this.
That's what I want.
Thank you. Closing remarks, Chief, I'll give you the floor.
I think we need to redefine, let's go back to the subject of generational family wealth. I think we need to redefine who's family, what's family, on a broader context. This now is family, from what Sifa is saying. Because family have to be defined for yourself, what family is.
100%.
Some of us, some of our siblings, we don't even talk to them.
Yeah.
Because
Cut from a different cloth.
you understand something is going on somewhere. So you get to a point in your life when you really define what family is, and that wealth can be grown outside of your biological family, and it will trickle back down to your biological family. So I think what I'm taking away from this discussion today is that, as much as our own family is important, we can go ahead and form that cooperative, that energy, that same energy that is in this room. The shareware culture that I talked about is very vital. Teach me what I don't know, and that is what have driven so many people. I want to give an instance. Just some time ago, the dollar whatever did something in Nigeria, and some of our billionaires got wiped out. Somebody like Femi Otedola lost all of his money in one night.
Really?
And this was a while back when he sold filling stations all over. That's why he left the business. So, and immediately that the Buhari government, the dollar jumped from 385 naira per dollar to 600 and 700 in 1 week. And most of them lost. That Aliko lost about $5 billion. If he wasn't $17 billion strong, he would have sucked.
He would have jumped off.
Now, what did they do? People like Samad, they're about three friends. Aliko, Femi, Samad. This one stepped up for this one stepped up. Before you know it, Femi was back as a billionaire in dollars. This one was back as a billionaire in dollars, and they showed up. They gave each other. They were not waiting for no bank. They were not waiting for some foreign investor to come in. What I believe is that the only option we have left in Africa is staying within our means.
100%.
And the only option we have as business people in Africa is really staying within our means. Because if we do not shape the games we play, we will always play the games we find. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna give the floor now to Kanyisa, and we'd love to just hear what you gathered, what you think about the conversation we've had, and then Ndahafa, if you could also just share a closing remark with us.
Well, firstly, I think you guys are a bunch of winners.
Please.
It's really incredible just listening to all of you guys, right? And I think the room and conversation, we had a foundation of respect, which I think is far more important than anything else. Like, you can not love me, but you must always respect me. Yeah. I think I really liked how Jonathan was summarized, because that was actually what I was going to say in terms of what I picked up. I think we mustn't be shy. I think what you guys have brought out, because you all have different perceptions around what you think the problem is or where we should be going, but they all were surrounded by the same thing. I think we shouldn't be shy of who we are, and we shouldn't be shy to call out the elephant in the room, that they've broken us. They have not a single person here said today, they've broken us, guys, and they don't want us to win. They don't. I think for me, that would be the one thing that I'd really challenge you guys to really, I know it was the first conversation, but really go deeper and being vulnerable, like what you just did now. Be vulnerable, be okay with having those tough conversations, be okay with just really expressing the anger that we have, because that's exactly why we're all sitting here. Because we're all not okay to lose, we're all not okay of not being the true righteous blueprint of humanity that we are as Black people. But I really think you guys are all incredible at every single point. I think you guys deviated a little bit, like there were so many different conversations. I think maybe for the next round, keep it very focused, because I don't know if I've actually understood what's the family business of the Black family, how we'll move forward with that. But you guys I'm actually overwhelmed by all of your minds and your humility and intellect and your drive and wanting to push the Black Amandala. But thank you so much, and thanks Sifa for opening this discussion.
Yes, thank you, Sifa.
Thank you very much. I think my closing, I just want to say that it is war, economical emancipation of the African race, the continent. It is war, and like any war, strategy is key. We all know how we got here. We all know our challenges, both individual and as a collective. However, we have to acknowledge the system that we are in and the times that we are in. So we have to develop strategies that speaks to that includes our value systems as Africans, a sense of identity, who we are, what we're striving for, and develop guerrilla tactics if you need to, because we're operating in a system that we don't own. And really also take ownership. Nobody is coming to apologize to us, but we live in a value system. And with that reality, we have to realize that social capital as a Black child is very important. And brand association, my vision, it's our collective vision is very important. It's, what brought me here is this amazing woman, and the vision. So vision and value create, capital on its own. Relationship is a value, and once we change our mindset to really realize the different capitals that are there, and also our mentality, because oftentimes, even though we get educated, we still have a poverty mindset, a mindset that is more reactive and survival focused. Wealth mentality is more strategic and accumulative and most looking towards sustainable products. So it requires a lot of discipline, patience, and management of risk. And that risk also includes our expectations as a family. And I like that idea of what is a family. And with family, sometimes there's a sense of expectation and entitlement that because it is my father's, I'm entitled to it. That's not how it works, unfortunately, in the economical world. We need to create systems, succession policies, and mentorship that we identify the best among ourselves, not necessarily because they are the firstborn or because they came, but we look at the value system and who has the ability to keep that value system intact, and then formalize this. If it needs to develop family constitutions, so we are clear that when somebody passed away, people are not fighting at it. And there is a system that is bigger than an individual. When you have institutions in place, it doesn't require who. The who doesn't matter, the what is more important and where. So once the map of our vision as a family, as a race, and as a continent is clear, then whoever comes develop a strategy that still drives the results home. So I think we are in the right direction. Let's align to each other, but it's not an entitlement. I will go where I see value. My brother or not brother, if you are weighing me down, I'll come for you, I'll feed you, or I'll bury you. However, I will not invest there.
And so big.